First of all, thank you for this invitation. And when we spoke with Tom Harrison, about this meeting, I said, yes, we are going to speak about the old mirror, but I'm absolutely unable to give a lecture. And that's not I want in a way, because thing which is interesting for me and perhaps for you is to try to understand what was my aim when I was working on the book. And I am absolutely, another important point is that I'm absolutely unable to say what is the state of the art about Herodotus today. So I cannot compare what I've done and what is the state of the art today, simply because I've no longer been working on this, not only no longer working on Herodotus, but even in the field of the ancient history. Just a few precisions. So the book, as you said, came out in the first edition in 1980. And there was a new edition in French in 1991 with a new preface, or a preface, which is in Janet Lloyd's translation. And there was finally a last edition in French, a paperback edition in 2001, with an expanded preface, which is not in the English translation. That means that for 20 years, I have no longer been looking at Herodotus. And if the numbers of publication on Herodotus remain the same as it was in the 20 previous years, that means that hundreds of books and articles have been published. So, and I'm absolutely unable to say what is as I said, the state of the art. I think that the book exists probably around 10 different translations. I have not the exact number, but it's around 10. And the last one, as far as I know, was a Chinese translation. But I don't know if it has been published or not. Anyway, I have not received any copy, so I don't know. But perhaps it has been published, I don't know. And exists also an e-book which is available in the United States. I don't know exactly how, but and I know that this book is have some readers. To say a few more words about the moment of the writing of the book, it came out in 1980. That means that the years during which I was working on it, between 1975 and 1980. Perhaps I could say it might be interesting for you, because the very first idea of the book was not at all, was quite different. I came to visit Cambridge in 1970, something, 2, 3, I don't remember. At that moment, I was translating Moses Finlay's book on archaic Greece in French, into French. And so I visited Moses Finlay. It was the first time I met him, and because I had a few questions. And we start to have a conversation, discussion, and I came back another time, maybe a year after or so, I don't remember exactly. And I was at that moment looking for dissertation subject for my dissertation. And Finlay told me, well, why don't you come back to this old question of why the Greeks did not become a nation? The old German problem during the 19th century. And so I start looking at that question. And of course, Herodotus was already big part of the question. So that was the very beginning. But after that, I could add that this visit, 2 visits to Cambridge, were, of course, important because that was my encounter with Moses, but also with other people in Cambridge at that time. Richard Buxton was there, Paul Cartledge was there, and Geoffrey Lloyd was there. So I start to have discussions, and when that was the beginning of friendship with these people. So that was an important moment for me. Then I had the opportunity to spend 1 year traveling around the world with the fellowship. And when I came back after 1 year, the subject had changed, and it was something around Herodotus had become the center, and the question of the Greeks and the others had become central. So, and then I start to work especially on the book 4 and the Scythians, Logos. So that's some sort of an anecdote, but it says something. Then, and I'll conclude quickly this kind of introduction about the atmosphere of these years. When the book came out in France, there was a reception of the book in the newspapers and periodicals, general periodicals, but not so, and also among historians, but not really among classicists. They think that it was not for them, and because of the book itself, probably, but also because of the people with whom I was working at that time. That means the circle around Jean-Pierre Vernant, Pierre Vidal-Naquet, and Marcel Détienne. These people were considered at that time as outsiders, not really in the field of the classicists. Even if Vidal-Naquet, as an historian, was considered, yes, as an historian, but still, because of his political position, because of his numerous interventions in the newspapers and so on, and people, classicists, were generally scary about him. And just to give you one more detail, at that time when you applied to get a professorship in France, you had to, we are very good to invent very complicated procedures. For that, you had to go through some sort of national committee, which says if they agree or they don't agree for you to get a professorship position. And so I went, I applied to this committee, and the answer was no. And why the answer was no? Because they said to me, that's not history. So, and I understand perfectly why they say that. They said that, but it gives you an idea of what mean at that time to work with this kind of people. You were considered as outsiders. Not, I mean, it was not terrible, very serious, but it was difficult to get a position at that time when you work with these people. And now, perhaps the last word, as far as the reception is concerned in the English-speaking world, I think that I have no precise data about that, but the fact that the book came out in a series, California University Press, which was the new historicism studies in, I don't remember, studies in cultural poetics, I think. And the director of the series was Stephen Greenblatt. I think that was something important in the way in which the reception start in the English-speaking world. Well, I think I stop here. It was only to give you some facts and details about the context, not the intellectual context. We can come back to that, but at least the atmosphere, the general atmosphere of the mid-70s, beginning of 80s in France, with ancient history or classicists.